Can you tell me your name and your title, please?
My name is Gaida Kambon, and I'm the Secretary General of the African People's Socialist Party.
Can you spell your names for me, please?
It's Gaida and then Kambon.
Tell our listeners why you're here and why these people are here. What's going on?
Well, what's going on now is a community that is outraged, a community that is bewildered right now, a community that some elements, have this understanding that justice serves everybody. And they woke up this morning to the rude awakening that justice doesn't always serve everybody. Usually, from our history in this country, that justice never served us. During another period, slavery was the law. And when an African tried to escape slavery, he was breaking the law. And I don't think we've came that far from it. Everybody understood that Trayvon Martin, a young man, an African young man that is profiled in this country, that somehow or the other, everybody's fearful now of African young men wearing hoods. And they're made so by everything that is done in the media and everywhere else. To be fearful of that Trayvon, somehow or the other, coming from buying some Skittles and a drink, became not the victim of vigilante justice, but he became the culprit. He became the perpetrator, and the African community does not sit well with that. Because we understand before all of the semantics and all of the distraction about who was hollering and who wasn't, the facts remain that Trayvon went about his business, he bought some Skittles and was on his way home. He was not armed with anything but some Skittles. And he was accosted by somebody that called previously before they even confronted him, called and said that they had this intention, that something was amiss because this African going on his way home is a suspect, like all Africans around the country are suspect. In New York, Africans are stopped, and the amount of Africans, the number of Africans that are stopped and frisked in New York is triple the amount of Africans that actually live in New York. That means Africans are stopped 3 times, more or less, and frisked, and 85% of them are let loose. Upwards of 85, they find nothing on them, but still they're being frisked, and that says something about how this country perceives a young African. So Trayvon is no different from that. Not only was Zimmerman armed with a gun, a lethal weapon, he was armed with a historic weapon. He understood that you could kill an African in this country with impunity, and you could walk. He knew that. He was armed with that, and nobody spoke about that. He knew that justice was on his side because he was accustomed of getting justice. He knew that he could act like a police and that he would be protected. And so he was armed twice, and Trayvon wasn't armed with anything. So that we understand that. We're clear that before all of the semantics and all of the distraction, that this young man ended up dead, ended up fighting for his life, and ended up dead. And we have a court that exonerated the murderer and made him the victim. Make the victim turn it upside down. So the community is outraged. I think there's more harm done. I think, but for what it is that anybody in this community, in the black community, anywhere around the country, not just this community, now that if they had one iota of hope that this system would work for them, now everybody in the African community knows that the justice system is a farce. It does not work for African people. And that's what this trial did. That's what this trial did. And the peace that is being called for is another obscene thing. Nobody called for justice throughout that whole thing. Everybody called for peace. No demand for justice, just peace. What it is peacefully marching to your grave, peacefully burying our children, peace on the plantation as we suffer peacefully. That's the call, and we're saying we're not going to do that anymore. They have done this community sore disfavor, and this community is enraged all around the world 10 times. From outside the world, Africans are voicing their discontent with this. And so this is what's happening. It's polarizing this community.
The Department of Justice wants a civil rights probe. Is that something, the NAACP is calling on the Department of Justice for that. Is that something you think would help?
I don't think it would help. I don't know how many more times they're going to show us that the justice system, one justice system. When the police investigate the police, when you have a police board that deals with the police that's doing the perpetrating. and you expect justice. It's just ludicrous. It's insanity when we try the same things and we get the same results, and we try the same things over looking for a different result. That's insanity. That's insanity. So let it be that they, whatever, you know, they see that, you know, that they think that they can do, it's just another distraction. The community wants real solutions. It has not worked in the past. This is not the first person that they've called for that. It has not worked. And I think right now, given the economic situation, given the dire situation in this community, in St. Petersburg, 75% of the African community, and this is not my statistics, it's theirs, live below the poverty level. When you have a community where 75% live below the poverty level, you're looking at a powder keg.
You were talking about solutions. At this point, what would be a solution?
The solution, I think, is what the brother is talking about. We're going to have to demand. We're going to have our own court systems. We don't get no jury. We have our peer. When they talk about the evidence show, when did evidence ever mean anything in the case of African people? How much circumstantial evidence? How many Africans end up on death row with less evidence than they had? Evidence have never worked. We had a case in Tampa recently where an elderly African man went across the street to tell somebody they couldn't skateboard. They couldn't skateboard. He was confronted by an ex-Marine or some kind of a person that worked with the defense. A younger man. This man was in his 50s, his late 50s, a bus driver, school bus driver. He was accosted by this guy. This guy tackled him as he walked away and was going back across the street to his house. This guy tackled him, threw him on the ground. The perpetrator's daughter, 6-year-old daughter, said Daddy was on top of him, choking him. He took out his gun and he shot this guy. That wasn't stand your ground. He got jail time. This is recently. This is St. Star Road. Evidence don't mean anything. Evidence don't mean anything. So we have to have the ability to have our own trials. We have to be. Zimmerman is tried in the African community today. He's been tried in the African community today. We have to be able. You have to have power to be able to exist any penalty. You know, we understand that we are a powerless community, and that's why things happen to us the way they happen. We have to organize our people for power. We have to organize our people to turn its back on this system. We have to organize everybody that can unite with that to say that this system has had it. There's no more disguise. There's no more farce. There's no more waving. Maybe this is too glaring. We've seen the evidence of it. You know, and we're saying that its days are numbered. It's out. It's done. And we have to create a just society. A just society where everybody would be equally treated. You know, not that 75% of us would live the way we live and everybody else step on our backs. Not that justice just serve a segment if you live across the street, whatever your house address is, if you live on the north side. No, a just society. A society where all the citizens can flourish. That's what we're talking about.